Good evening, everyone. We will now begin the evening service of the Miroku Association headquarters, expressing our gratitude to God and Meishu-sama for blessings and protection received while participating in the construction of paradise on earth. Amatsu Norito and Miroku prayer. Please stand. Takaamagara ni kanzumarimasu. Kamurogi kamuromi no mikoto mochite. Sumemi oya kamu izanagi no mikoto. Tsubushi no himuka no tachi hana no. Odo no ahagi hara ni misogi hara itamo utoki ni narimaseru. Araido no o kami tachi, moro moro no magago to tsumi kegare o. Arai tamae, kiyome tamae, tomao sukoto no yoshio. Amatsu kami, kunitsu kami, yao yorosu no kami tachi tomoni. Ame no fuji koma no mimi furitatete kikoshi meseto kashiko mimu maosu. Miroku o mikami mamori tamae saki hae tamae. Miroku o mikami mamori tamae saki hae tamae. Oshie miyoya nushi no kami, mamori tamae saki hae tamae. Oshie miyoya nushi no kami, mamori tamae saki hae tamae. Kom nagara tamachi hae mase. Nagara tamachi hae mase. Great God of light, creator and giver of all life, in accordance with your divine will, the long age of night draws to an end. Your radiant divine light, shining ever more brilliantly, awakens the dawn of the glorious age of light, a time long awaited by all humanity. We thank you for guiding us to your divine plan and for the privilege of channeling and receiving your ray. May our spirits and bodies be illuminated and purified as we live your truth given to us by Meishu-sama. Make us pure and effective instruments of your divine light so that we may serve you and all those with whom we come in contact. May paradise on earth be realized with health, peace, and prosperity, a reality in our lives. Great God of light, bless and protect us. Radiate our souls with your divine light so that we may truly become instruments of your great plan. Please be seated. We will now receive group jewelry. May God and Meishu-sama bless you. Jorei is now concluded. We will now listen to a reading from Meishu-sama's teachings. Paradise on earth. That which has been called the kingdom of heaven, paradise on earth, the age of Miroku, is the ideal world to come. Happy are our thoughts of the new age of justice, a time when all that is good will prevail and evil perish. The coming new age will bring a crystal clear world where even the tiniest wrong deed or impurity cannot be hidden. It is our mission to impart a realization of truth through which all the errors of the world age will be clearly revealed and corrected, and a world of light, serene and pure, will become a reality. Then all evil will be eliminated from our hearts, and good, which has been oppressed for so long, will come to the fore so all humanity can enjoy true happiness and fulfillment. The first important step towards such a goal is the awakening of all the people of the world to truth for the daylight age. That was Meishu-sama's teachings. And today I'd like to share with you a little bit about the life and mission of Mokichi Okada. That's his real name, Meishu-sama. It's from this book. The name of the book is also called Meishu-sama, The Life and Mission of Mokichi Okada. There is one passage on chapter 7 that's called Revelation. And it says, Meishu-sama began following the divine will of God by his own volition. Meishu-sama felt more and more certain that God was moving him in accordance with a divine plan. At the same time, he felt a slight degree of apprehension because not only was this a new experience for him, but it was also something beyond the concept of most people. How could he make them understand? The money Meishu-sama had at that time was only enough to support his family for 5 or 6 months, and there was no prospect of having a fixed income in the near future. However, as continued miracles and revelations became the focus of his attention, he almost forgot his financial difficulties. He devoted himself to healing the sick, as well as searching for further spiritual awareness. As was mentioned before, he had already been endowed with the tremendous power to be a transmitter of God's light. This was made possible by the constant flow of light through him and the flow of universal energy emanating from God, the giver of all life. When he channeled this light, astonishing results were achieved. Meishu-sama then, named this process Jorei, which means purifying the spirit in Japanese. The divine light of God, when transmitted to an individual, permeates and purifies his or her spiritual body. This spiritual purification is reflected on the material being, improving it mentally and physically. A person's mental attitude and health becomes better because his or her blood, a materialized form of spirit, purifies. The most important factor, however, is that the Jorei recipient is spiritually spiritual growth. Spiritually purifying and enlightening people through Jorei is the most important phase of this divine work, with the ultimate goal being the establishment of paradise on earth. The method of transmitting the power of Jorei was revealed to Meishu-sama so that any individual, if he or she wished, could work as a channel of God's light. It means he could become a member. Meishu-sama was inspired by God to make a focal point, the ohikari, through the meaning of a written character to be worn on the body of the giver. This would enable the perfect vibration of divine light to be transmitted more effectively to the recipient. Considering the huge population of the world, Meishu-sama realized it is God's will that there should be as many channels of divine light as possible. God's plan is carried out through human beings. God needs people to serve as instruments of light, or rather, the material to serve as an instrument of the spiritual. And to finish, Meishu-sama also learned through this divine guidance that spiritual vibrations could be transmitted through written characters. In Japanese, characters are used instead of letters. Anything written carries the vibration of the writer. So, in turn, the recipient or carrier of this written material was then, in fact, connected by an invisible spiritual cord to the writer. He also learned that different words had different vibratory rates. The word that means light was the one with the highest vibrations and was perfect as the transmitter of God's light because of its powerful spiritual emanations. He found that when he wrote the correct character for light, the high vibration of divine light, rather than his own personal vibration, was impressed on it. For by now, Meishu-sama was a perfect channel of God's light. Guided by this knowledge, he selected about 40 followers to prepare for ministerial work during the next few years. It is always important for us members and those who are joining us to know more and more about Meishu-sama, about what Meishu-sama really represents to this entire world. So I hope you can also study these life of Meishu-sama, and you can have this book for your study, Meishu-sama, The Life and Mission of Mokichi Okada. That would be very interesting and important for all of us. With this, I would like to thank you all very much for this service, and I'll see you tomorrow morning for another morning service. Thank you very much, and have a good evening. And this concludes our evening service. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us, and have a blessed evening.
Yeah, no problem.